Hi everyone, good morning. I hope you are able to hear me. Can anyone please confirm?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So in the last session, we started talking about DP 900, right? So I'm going to take you through in a different approach because if I take you through that PDF, you may feel it is completely like looks like theory. So let's go and take in a different approach. But once this is done, so what this DP 900 is saying at higher level is, so you are going to get to know the basics of data engineering. So that means, so what is a cloud you can understand, and what services we are having that you can understand, and what types of the data we are having so that you can understand, and what are the storages that we are having as part of your data. I mean to say as part of Azure that you can get to know when you go with the DP 900. Okay, so you can go through the documentation. I'll explain in the way it is a little theory and practical in the practical orientation also, so that you can easily understand. If but basically DP 900 is purely a theory part. Okay, so if you wanted to work as a data engineer, if you want to work as a data engineer, what you require is you need to know how we can set up the services, or you need to know how we can use the services. So what services we are going to use is data engineering services. Okay, so ADF, we should know how we can use it. You should know about ADB, you should know about ADLS, and you should know about Azure SQL Server. So like this, there are few servers or few services are available. If you know about all these services, then you can work as a data engineer, Azure data engineer, or we are also going to be treated as a Fabric data engineer. So simply, if you ask me, if I placed anywhere, definitely I'm going to force them to give a data engineering designation. I don't take any specific to Azure. I don't take any specific to Fabric. So data engineers should work with any kind of data engineering services. Okay, so because when the experience is getting more, this will be the generic term. But if you go for this, it will be specific to Azure, and again this will be specific to Fabric. Okay, so when you get a designation point of view, just try to get only data engineer, senior data engineer, or something like that. So that is fine. If you wanted to take these services, if you want to know the services, first you need to log into the portal. You have to log into the portal as a developer, because we are going to connect with the Azure. This is the Azure, and you're connecting to the Azure as a developer. We are all developers. So customers are not going to connect with with Azure. Why? They don't know, they don't need. I mean, they don't know about Azure. They know higher level. So Azure is getting replaced or on premise. That point up to that level, customer is aware of it. But what we are going to do inside the cloud, they're not aware of it, because if they wanted to check what is happening, they should know about all this stuff. Only developers knows about it. So you need to have an account. If you wanted to touch this data factory, if you want to touch this data bricks, then definitely you need to have an account from the Microsoft Azure. If you don't have an account, then you cannot go inside and you cannot see the data factory. Now the question is, how can we create an account? Account creation is required. So in order to create the account in Microsoft Azure, so Microsoft Azure allows Microsoft accounts only. If you have a Microsoft account, then you can go inside the Azure. If you don't have a Microsoft account, then you cannot go inside. So this Microsoft accounts, what accounts will be treated is Hotmails. Hotmail is a Microsoft account. And Microsoft Outlook. So Outlook also is Microsoft account. So domain, Outlook domain accounts. Okay, so company mail IDs will be there, right? Office 365. So that accounts also will be treated as a Microsoft accounts. Now I don't have a Outlook, or I don't have a Hotmail. I have only Gmail. then you can convert this Gmail as a Microsoft account. We can convert it and then we can use it. So to create an account in the Microsoft Azure, your account should be treated as a Microsoft account. Even if that is a Gmail account, you can treat that as a Microsoft account by doing some steps. We can convert it. But to avoid all those fee confusions, I always used to take Outlook account or Hotmail account. We are going to create a Outlook account or Hotmail account. So let's see how we can create it. Let's say how we are going to create a Outlook account. I hope you're with me. You're getting my point, right? Why we need to have an account? So somewhere I kept this documentation. Okay, so I'm just going to show you few steps here. Just consider only a few things only, not everything, because in my I created many accounts, so it is getting the puzzle is getting little more difficult for me. So you can just try. I'll share this documentation. First, create an Outlook account. It's a free of cost. You don't need to pay anything. Use this URL outlook.live.com. Then this window will open. So you can find there is a create free account. So when you hit on it, it is going to the next page to provide the details. So here you can give an email. So whatever the email you wanted to give, you can give it here. You can give an email ID. Let's say Bhaskar, something like this. If you give it, Bhaskar@outlook.com is going to get. So if you want to create a Hotmail, in the drop down, you can find there is a Hotmail. In the drop down, you can find a Hotmail also. Okay, so that you can try. And then enter this email ID and hit on next. Then it will go to the next page. So it is going to ask you to pass the enter first name and last name. You can pass the first name and last name, any name that you can provide. I just provided, I think Bhaskar ADE01 Hotmail, something I just provided. And then it is going to ask you to pass the country and date you can provide. And then here is the puzzle is going to be started. So this puzzle is little difficult because I created more than 20 accounts. So I'm getting a problem. So you just try to create it. So once you have a Outlook account, then using that Outlook account, we are going to log into the Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft Azure directly allows, if you have a Outlook account, since it is a Microsoft account, you can directly go inside the Microsoft Azure. You got my point, right? Once you go inside this, then what we require, that is important. So up to here is your once you submitted it, then your Outlook account will be ready. So let me check if that possible or not. Okay, so let me open incognito window, outlook.live.com. Let's create a free account. I'm just trying to create it for you. So it is asking a mail, Outlook. So since I have a too many with Outlook, I'm just taking a Hotmail. Bhaskar made 001. I'm taking. Let me go to the next. I'm just entering the email ID. Then it will ask you to pass the password. Just provide the password. And let's say next. Then it will ask the username and password. I'm just going to say Bhaskar. Yeah, let's say made Master Azure Data Engineering. Let's say next. And you can provide the country and you can provide any date here. Let's go for next. Now this puzzle will come. It's a easy. If I get this arrow symbols, then it will be easy. But if I go with Outlook, I used to get a different kind of puzzles. Let's submit it. Now it is success. So once it is succeeded, then it is going inside the Outlook. You can see it is trying to go inside. So to create a subscription, first step you have to create Outlook account or Hotmail account. And second is log into Azure portal. So Azure portal is www.portal.azure.com. The third is create a subscription. So there's 3 steps that we are going to see here. Let's say hit on yes, it will go inside. It takes you inside your Outlook. So this is your account here, you can see, and I'm just going to log in with the same account to just open one more tab, and I'm going to say portal.azure.com. Then it is asking username. You can enter email, phone, Skype, or anything. So I created an email like bhaskarmate001@hotmail.com. I'm just providing it to go inside the Azure. So with Microsoft account, with Microsoft account, I can go inside the portal. So which portal? Azure portal. So let me re-enter again. Hotmail.com. Let's say next. It is not asking even password because we logged in with Microsoft account. So it will directly take inside this. Now, if you observe, this is the Microsoft Azure portal. Okay, so if I wanted to take any action or if I wanted to do anything in the Microsoft Azure, so this is a Microsoft Azure and this is your account details. And if I wanted to take the Azure Data Factory or any data storage, ADLS, Gen2 or anything, then we required subscription. So subscription is required. If we don't have a subscription, then we are not supposed to take any service. We cannot consume it. We cannot consume. Okay, so I always recommend to have a credit card. Credit card is required here if you wanted to go for free trial subscription. If you don't have it, then you cannot do it. Even if you wanted to use this free trial for 1 month, this is going to be available for 1 month. But still, you need to have a credit card. Okay, so if you don't have a credit card, then you cannot use it. And sometimes even a debit card also is getting used to just try is debit card working or not if you don't have a credit card. So I'm just going to hit on start. Everyone has to start once you have created an Outlook account. you have to start Azure portal. So from there, I'm just going to start try for free. Try Azure for free, hit on it. Then it will start creating a subscription. We are trying to create a subscription in the Azure. If you don't have a subscription, then you cannot get it. So when you create a subscription, what happens is it is going to give a popular services for 12 months, but they're saying popular services, but major services you don't get with for 12 months. You're going to get only 1 month. Like ADF, you don't get it here. 12 months, you don't get the ADF. Okay, so they're giving a 13,300 credits INR for 30 days. First 30 days only, you can use this 13,300 credits. If 1 month is completed, then your subscription will be ended. Or if this amount is completed, your subscription will be ended. If any one of them is completed first, then you have to choose pay as you go. If you wanted to continue the services, you have to go for pay as you go. Okay, so we'll talk about it. So just take country, India, name has taken already. Based on the Outlook details, it has taken the details here. Just come little down. So it is going to ask you to enter the phone number here. Just enter the phone number. And do not choose different. Okay, do not check this checkbox. And text me, use the text me, and you'll get some code to authenticate because your Microsoft checking whether you're right person or not. So you will get one authentication code, enter that, then enter the company name. You can use ABC also, anything that is fine. So PAN card is an optional, we don't need to provide. And then just provide the address line 1, you can provide. This is an optional again, this is an optional, you can provide anything. You can provide the city, state. Okay, so you can fill it. This is not a big deal. You can provide all these details. So once you provided, you just check the check boxes, and then if everything is perfectly provided, then it will allow you to pass the details in the card. I mean to say, you have to provide the card details here. Okay, so at the time of identification of your credit card or debit card, you have to provide the card details, the way you're going to order in Amazon or any other online sales, the way you're going to enter. In the same way here also, you're going to provide the details. So then once you submit it, it is going to deduct 2 rupees from your card, and that will be reverted again to identify whether you're a right person or not. So once it is verified, then you're going to have a free trial subscription for 1 month. You understand my point, right? Any question as of now, guess how we can set up the account?
Bhaskar, as you mentioned that it would be for 1 month, and our course is for 3 months, then again, do we need to recreate another one after a month?
To recreate it, you need to have a one more new credit card. If you have a one more new credit card, yes, you can do the all steps repeatedly. Okay. Let's say if you take me, I don't have a multiple credit cards. Mostly I may have a two hardly, or you can use your family member's credit card. There will be no problem because they don't deduct any single rupee also until unless you accept the paid subscription. So they're going to send an alert. Okay, so once they send an alert, I think, yeah, alert, something like this. So they will send an email to accept it. If you accept, from then it will be treated as your subscription as pay as you go. And again, if you don't use the services, the price is very less. If you use the services, then you're going to pay. Otherwise, you don't pay it. So how much bill you may get, like if you have only one credit card, then my course is 3 months, then how can I do the practice? That is the question.
Hmm.
So here you can go with the pay as you go. You may get hardly 500 to 1000 rupees. I say 500, but I'm just giving 500 to 1000 is because there is a data flow in the data factory. When you use the data flow, the cost is little more and that point of time. And other point is at the time of project, we are going to keep the resources as it is till the project is completed. So in that case, there may be chances to get monthly up to 1000. So if you can follow as per my guidance, then definitely you may get less than 500 also. Because hardly you are going to practice only max to max 2 to 3 hours daily, right? You may not practice more than that.
Hmm.
So if you practice daily 2 to 3 hours, you don't get more than 500 if you follow my instructions. So spending 500 is not a big deal for everyone.
Hmm.
Okay. Any question still with the subscription?
No, thank you.
Yeah. So I recommend to create a subscription at least by tomorrow, because the reason why I recommend is when I'm explaining about the storage, you will see how I'm going to create a ADLS and how I'm going to access this. You can see. So navigations are important. So whenever you're going for the tool or cloud services, navigations plays key role. So if you're much more aware of the navigation, then you can easily deal with the services. If you go for ADF, it is more and more clicks and drags. Drags and clicks will be there. Okay, so wherever there is a tool, keep in mind navigation is important. So I recommend to create a subscription by tomorrow itself. Like you will be having a free trial for 1 month. So you may go for one more month paid. Okay, so that's not a big deal. But navigations are important because when I'm going to start the data factory, everyone should be aware of how we can set up the ADLS. And everyone should know should be aware of Azure SQL Server, how we can set up it. So that when I'm talking about the data factory, if I ask you, we have to move the data from one place to other place, then you should be aware of if I a little go faster to set up the source and target, because our main concentration is to talk about the data factory. So again, if I go a little faster here, of course, it is one time job that I'm going to do. So you don't feel much difficult. Okay, so in the interview also, they're going to ask about the storages. So what kind of storages you have used? So what is the difference between ADLS Gen 1 and Gen 2? So there is a Gen 1 and Gen 2 was introduced. And so this kind of generic questions also there is a chances to ask in the interview. Even I faced many times.
Aren't we going to use a block container even?
We are going to see. We are going to. Now this is how we can create a subscription. So since I'm already having a subscription, I cannot create it at this point of time. I'm just going to use my existed subscription. So let's go to the portal. So I'm not going to use this incognito window. Let's close that.
When we should create the subscription, tomorrow or today?
You can create on tomorrow
Okay.
so that you can save one day. So for this week, the usage of the account is less, but still I'm recommending is because you don't feel like you don't feel there is a new navigation. So you can do practice right after my session. So that is the main intention, to ask to create a subscription by tomorrow itself. So in order to go to the portal, as I said, we have to use portal.azure.com. Let's hit on it. When I hit on it, it will ask username and password first time. So once you logged in, you can save your credentials with the window, then it is going to take you inside directly. So since it was stored already, it is taking me inside directly. So this is my account. I'm going to use this account because this is a paid subscription for me. And this is a Microsoft Azure portal menu it is. Okay, so from here you can navigate to any place. That is one approach. Another approach is, if I wanted to take any service, we can search the service from this place. You know the name of the service, but you don't know the navigations to navigate it. I don't go in this approach. I always go with this one. Just type the service name, then automatically it is going to get it here. And when you open first time your a portal, you're not going to have this one. The reason why I'm getting all this is because I recently used them. So frequently used services are going to be listed here. Okay, so that is fine. And once you have a services here, you don't need to search. If I need a data factor, I can directly go here. Or if I need a Databricks, I can directly go here. So it reduces the number of clicks. So that is one thing I wanted to say. Now, I wanted to talk about what problems you're going to face or what problems are there in the market is two problems. There are only two problems. One is data storage problem and second is data processing problem. These two problems only we have it. To provide the solution for these two problems, so these two, if you have any one of them, that we can say that is a big data. So big data means a data that you cannot store or your system is not capable enough to store your data. Or if your system is not capable enough to do the data processing, then that is a big data. So I'm going to spend some time with the storage. Okay, so DP 900 is going to talk about storage as well as what services are there for data processing. Only theoretical part will be there. Okay, so practically we are going to say once we started the next week, then we are going to start doing the data processing. Okay, so in order to store the data, how you can store the data in the Microsoft Azure? Because if you wanted to store petabytes of the data, then we need to have a massive volume of the storage. So that you cannot get from the on-prem. We can get it. There is no problem, but you need to have a budget. So if you go with cloud platform, so what happens is with less cost, we can get it. With less cost, we can get the storage. And that storage, if you take a HDFS, way of storage is different. And if you go with the ADLS, the way of storage, a slight difference will be there. And we are going to talk about Lakehouse. So why Lakehouse is much more faster than your ADLS and HDFS? We are going to see that. So these are all the storages only. Now, in order to store the data in the Microsoft Azure, what services we're having it? What services we're having, that we're going to see. We have a ADLS Gen2. We have a ADLS Gen2. We have a Azure SQL Server. Cosmos DB. Okay, and Azure Data Warehouse. And I'm also going to take Lakehouse. Basically, Lakehouse is not part of the Azure, it is a part of Fabric. Okay, so Lakehouse also is going to store the data. So how exactly we can store? So what is the difference between the ADLS and Lakehouse? We are going to see at the time of Fabric. But for time being, you just concentrate on the ADLS because your 90% of the projects are there with the ADLS only, not with the Lakehouse. So if there is any upcoming projects, then there is a chances to go for Lakehouse. Okay, so just concentrate more and more on this. Whatever I'm going to take you through, just please concentrate. So certification you can do by going through the dumps, but working is important. So for me, if you ask me, I give 100% a priority for working, not for certification. I have a DP 203 certification. It doesn't mean that you're having complete end-to-end skill set. So it's just because of some business, Microsoft is doing that. And we have a dumps in the market. You can prepare the dumps and you can attempt it. But working is not like that. If you know working, then only can work. Okay. Now I wanted to store the data. If I wanted to store the data, I need to have a storage service. If I wanted to store the data in Azure, what you required? Storage services are required. Okay, so if I wanted to store the data in Azure, I need to have a storage services. So I'm just giving few services here. Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2 and Azure SQL Server, Azure Data Warehouse, Azure Cosmos DB. So like this, we have a storages. But frequently, as a data engineer, we're going to use is this one. And Azure SQL also, Azure SQL Server also. Okay, so and there is a chances to use the Azure Data Warehouse when you go for Fabric, because this is also getting used if you have a signups, but signups is going to be retired, and we're going to get a Fabric. Okay, and Cosmos DB also, but basically this was also is going to be. I'm not sure whether it is going to be available in the future or not, but mostly Microsoft is concentrating more on the lakehouse. Okay, so we can store any kind of data. We can store structured data, we can store semi-structured data. So as a data engineer, you should be aware of what types of data we are having in the market. So that is also is important. That is also is a certification question when you go for DP 900. Okay, so let's see about Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2. I wanted to take this service. If I wanted to take this service, how can you connect to this Azure? We already have an account. You already logged in. To take this one, we require a subscription. In order to take any service from Microsoft Azure, first thing is subscription. You require a subscription. If you don't have a subscription, you're not supposed to take the service. That subscription may be paid subscription. That subscription may be free trial subscription. But any cost, we require a subscription. And the second thing we require is a resource group is required. Resource group is required. A resource group is a bucket where we can keep the required services for your project, required services for your problem. So that is what the resource group we can say. And if you want to know more details about it, I kept the DP 900 document. Just share your Gmail ID. I'll share DP 900 document. Just go through that. I gave some points about the subscription. I gave some points about the resource group. And then third is required from which region you are taking the storage, or from which region you are taking a data processing service. We have a services for data storage and we have a services for data processing. So when you are taking a service, you have to specify from which region you are taking. So region is also matters your performance. Region also is going to decide how much cost it is. Your data is there somewhere. Let's say, for example, your data is there in US and you created an ADF in India. If you try to process it, the cost is more because it has to take the data from the different region. So network charges will be there. So to avoid the network charges, always the solution architects are going to say, wherever there is a storage, there only we need to have a data processing so that the performance will be faster and the cost also will be less. So region plays key role. Okay, so the reasons we have two reasons basically when you go for storage. In storage point of view, I'm saying we are going to have a primary region and secondary region. So why we need to have a primary region and secondary region? At the time of redundancy, I'll talk about it. And finally, we required the fourth point. But what I did. What I did. Just give me 1 minute, please. Let me stop the screening. Just give me a minute. I've hit on something, some key. So that key is not responding to me now. Zoom it. Good. Yeah, finally I got it. Let me share my screen again. I'm sorry for that. Somewhere it went. Perfect, Pratik. You already created account. Good. Yeah, yeah. So here I'm just trying to say if you wanted to create any service, then we required all these things. And the fourth one is I wanted to say the fourth one is service details or resource details. We have to provide resource details. So resource details means if you are taking a data lake storage Gen2, then provide a Gen2 details. Or if you're taking a SQL server, then provide a SQL server. Or if you're taking a Azure Data Factory, then provide Azure Data Factory details. So these things we required when you take any service. Now I'm going to take a Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2, ADLS Gen2 I'm taking because the reason why we required ADLS Gen2. We'll see that. Just observe. So in order to create a Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2 account, everyone should know about this because for ADF and ADB, we are going to use the ADLS Gen2. Okay. So this ADLS Gen2 is going to come from the Azure storage accounts. So storage accounts is having two parts. One is ADLS Gen2 and other is blob account. We have a blob account also. So what is the difference between this ADLS Gen2 and blob account? So this ADLS Gen 2 is specifically designed for big data processing. This is specifically designed for big data processing. So then you tell me, when we are going to deal with the big data, we're always going to use the ADLS Gen 2 only, 100% is. And this blob account is for general purpose. This blob account is designed for general purpose storage. General purpose storage. So what does it mean? Guys, storage is not only for data engineers. Storage is for everyone, right? That is one thing. I wanted to store the data, only storing. I don't want to process it. My requirement is not for processing. My requirement is for backup purpose. My requirement is backup purpose. If a requirement is backup purpose, then why you need to keep the data in the ADLS Gen 2? You don't need to keep it. Just keep it in a blob account. General purpose storage. So this will be used for backup purpose, logging data purpose. Or if you create a virtual machine, I told you in the last session, we are going to have a virtual machine. So virtual machine will be stored inside this blob account only, not in the ADLS Gen 2. This is designed for big data processing. So I don't care about this blob account. I always care about ADLS Gen 2. I hope you are following with me. So as a data engineer, concentrate more on the ADLS Gen 2 account. By using the storage accounts, we can create two types of the account. One is ADLS Gen 2 account and other is blob account. Now, how can you differentiate this? This is a ADLS Gen 2 account and this is a blob account. There is a property called hierarchical namespace. Okay, I'll show you that. Okay, so how exactly it is going to be there? Let me show you while creating the storage account. Hit on storage accounts. Hit on plus create. So I'm going to create a resource group. You can see here your Azure storage. Your Azure storage account is a managed service. What it is saying? Azure storage is Microsoft managed service providing cloud storage. So which is managed by Microsoft. You don't need to manage it. You're just going to use it. So this is highly available, secure, durable, scalable, and redundant. So all the features are available as part of the storage accounts. Okay, so Azure storage includes Azure blobs, Azure data lake storage Gen 2, Azure files, keys, and Azure tables also we can store it. But as a data engineer, we're going to store the blobs. So blobs is nothing but files. Blobs are nothing but files. So in order to create a storage account, what it is asking? It is asking a subscription. So here I'm providing my subscription. This subscription is a paid subscription. If you store more data, it is taking more money. If it's basically the storage cost is very cheap. Okay, so I'll show you how much cost is there for my storage. You can feel very minimal charges for the storage. Okay, so of course, we are not going to deal the GBs of the data for educational purpose. So at the time of working, you can see that. And resource group is required. If you don't have a resource group, then you cannot take a service. I already told you to take the storage account, I required a subscription and I required a resource group. In the last session, I have shown you how we can create a resource group. Okay, so I'm just going to utilize the existing resource group. I wanted to I'll create a new resource group. Create new resource group. So creating a resource group is one-time job. You're not going to do it multiple times. So I'm going to say Bhaskar-made 001. I'm just giving some naming standard for this. Okay, have a other resource group. So I'm just taking a different resource group name and let's hit OK. Now resource group is created. Just come little down. So once you provided your subscription and resource group details, we provided. Then I told you reason is required. From which region you are taking the storage. So Microsoft is having a data centers in the different regions, right? In India, they have a storage. In a US, they have a storage. And in somewhere also they have a storage. Okay, UK, they have a storage. So from where you are keeping your storage? So collection of data centers or collection of data centers will be treated as a region. So we don't have a control on the data centers level. We have a control up to the region level only. Okay, because of the securities. Now, by default, I'm taking Central India because this is my nearest location. Central India is my nearest location. I'm going to take the nearest location. If you're staying in US, take a US nearest location to you. So then only your cost will be different. That is one thing you required. Another thing is service details also you need to provide. That is the storage account name. So you need to provide the storage account name. So I'm just going to provide it. Just observe. Storage account name, Bhaskar hyphen made hyphen ADLS Gen2. But this will not allow hyphens. Let's say underscores. Underscore also will not be provided. So I'm going to take Bhaskar made 00, let's say made ADLS Gen2. I'm just giving some naming standard. So we are not supposed to provide any special characters. You can see the naming standards. You can go through that. Okay, so it's a generic you can provide, but basically in the real time, you don't create the storage account. This is not your job. So this is purely related to admin job. So admin also is going to follow the data architect. I mean to say a solution architect, or we can say a data engineering architects. They're going to give the naming standards. Based on the naming standards, these admins are going to create a storages. Okay, so here you have to do yourself because you have to set up your environment for our practice. So because of that reason, we are creating a storage account. Otherwise, in real time, this is not our job. Let's move on to the next point. There is a primary service. So primary service that you have to choose Azure Blob Storage or Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2. You have to take this one. And there is a standard and premium, and just leave it as this standard. And I'm just going to say here Azure Blob Storage or Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2. So your primary service is saying both general purpose storage and big data processing storage. Both are having it. And there is a redundancy. I'm going to spend some time with the redundancy. Okay, so because in the certification and even I faced an entry question from this place. What are the different types of redundancies are there? How can you differentiate them? Okay, so because storage is also is part of the data engineers. And I'm just going to leave it as it is the default, whatever is there here. I'm not touching anything. I just provided the basic details that you can understand what we can provide while configuring the storage account. And then go to the next. In the next, there is a many options are there. You just leave the default options because this is not our job. So administrators should know about all these points. As we are going to work as a data engineer, we don't need to handle it. You just leave it everything default. Most of the options will be default even by the administrators. So there is a property called hierarchical namespace. This is important. Why it is built? I mean to say ADLS is built for ADLS Gen2 is built for big data is because of this property. So I wanted to do the data processing faster. If the files are stored in hierarchical manner, then it will go faster reading. If the files are loaded hierarchical way, then reading is going to be faster. So because of that reason, Microsoft brought this feature. And you can see somewhere they have written, your ADLS is going to accelerate big data analytics workloads. So how we can make it enable? If you enable this, then it is going to accelerate your big data processing. So how we can enable is by default it is disabled here. So we have to use this checkbox, enable hierarchical namespace. You need to check this. Then it is going to be treated as a ADLS Gen 2. If you don't check this checkbox, then it is a blob account. You don't see the differences between the ADLS Gen 2 and blob account in the navigation point of view mostly. But behind the storage, behind the scene, in the internally, this is going to be stored in a flatten. Everything will be there in the same line. All the files is going to be there in the same place. But when you go for ADLS Gen 2, you're going to have a hierarchy. Like if you take a year, under the year, you're going to have a, I'm just taking a quarter. Under quarter, you'll be having a month. Then if I need a data for so-and-so year 2025, I'll go directly to this place and bring the data. But when you go for flatten, everything will be there in the same place. We cannot go directly to that place. Each and every file you have to search and identify your file. So that is the blob, general purpose. So that is not suitable for big data processing. A suitable storage is Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 is the a suitable storage for big data processing. Okay, so we need to check this checkbox to make this ADLS Gen 2. And there is a access tiers also is available here. I'll talk about it because when you go for certification DP 900, you need to be aware of this certification. We need to be aware of this costing. We'll come across this. And I don't need to set anything in the Nest networking. We just leave it default data protection. We just leave it encryption. Everything we just leave it as it is the default things. So I'm just going to hit on the review plus create. Let me hit on finally. All the options are there here. See, here I'm doing I'm just using the UI, right, to create the storage account. But just imagine your, I mean to say, admin wanted to create his storages. Just imagine 25 storage accounts they wanted to create for different people, not for the same persons. So they don't go for this approach. They're going to have a ARM template. They're going to use that. Okay. So this template, they're going to parameterize this way of creating the storage account. And they're just going to pass the parameter values and it will be submitted. So with just clicks, with just in minutes, they can set up everything by running the ARM template. So that will be taken care by administrators, how they're going to set up it. If they have only 3 accounts, then they can go for UI also. It's all depends. If they're providing services, like if you take a service providers, if they wanted to create too many storage accounts, then they may go for automated option also. So Microsoft is having a UI and Microsoft is providing the ARM template also to set up it. So since we are not administrators, we don't need to know about the ARM template. So let me just go and hit on create. It takes a minute to set up this service.
What is TLS? Minimum TLS was there.
Which one?
Yes. We were creating.
ADLS.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Creating account. It asked for a minimum TLS where you mentioned as 1.2.
Where it is? Let me check.
In the advanced only. First option. Do we need to select anything or is it going
No,
to
we
be a
don't need to
default?
select. We don't need to select anything.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so we can just leave it default. Let's
Okay.
go to resource. Now you can see here, once the setup is done, the storage account is ready. You can see the storage account details here. Resource group name, location, primary and secondary. I told you, when you go for storage, we are going to have a primary region and secondary region. Why I have a two regions, we'll see at the time of redundancy. So what subscription ID, and disk state, all the details are taken here. Okay, you can find the details here. And you can see a data lake storage hierarchical namespace is enabled. If someone created account, if you wanted to know what type of account it is, if it is enabled, then it is a ADLS. We have a only Gen2. There is no Gen1. Okay, so previously blob account was there and Gen1 is there. ADLS Gen1. Okay. So separate services are there. Separate service for blob account and separate service for Gen1. So this is a deprecated. It is not available now. So what Microsoft did is they took the besties of blob account and besties of your ADLS Gen1 and they combined together and they named it as a storage accounts. You got my point, right? So that is what we're having here. Within the same place, we have a blob account and we have a ADLS Gen2. They named it as a ADLS Gen2. Now, ADLS Gen2, how can we say that is a ADLS Gen2 is if it is enabled? If it is not enabled, then it is a blob. Okay, so that is one thing you have to keep in mind. Now, just give me 2 minutes. I will wind up in a couple of minutes. So here I have a data storages. If you expand this data storages, you can see what we are going to store as part of your storage. As part of the storage, we are going to store containers, file sets, queries, and tables. So this DP900 is having all these details, what we are going to have it. Okay, but as a data engineer, what you required? As a data engineer, we're going to use these containers. These containers are going to store the blobs. So blobs is nothing but files. We're going to have a data in the files only. You're going to process the files to get the insights, to get the cleansed data. Okay, so file share is something which is going to be used like a shared folders, maybe if you are aware of it. So shared folders or shared paths will be there in the olden days. Even now also, if you share the folder, so multiple people can access it. So that kind of feasibilities we're going to have as part of the file shares. And keys are specific to the messages. Like if you take a WhatsApp, like you'll be having a messages, right? So for that purpose, people use this quiz. So we are not going to handle applications, right? So you don't need to worry about this quiz. On tables, if you wanted to store semi-structured data, if you wanted to store, we can go for it. I gave the example for this also as part of this documentation. But again, this is not much more important as part of the data. I mean to say in Azure, but when you go for Databricks, we require semi-structured data. So your JSON files is going to have a semi-structured data. You're going to have a XML also as a semi-structured data, but extensively will be used by JSON. So we are going to see how we can handle the JSON data as part of the data factor as well as in the database, but more important in the database. So we can have a semi-structured data with UI, but I don't feel there is a use for us. Okay, so there will be no use for us. As per my experience, I'm saying. So I can say 100% we don't require it, if you ask me. But this containers is very, very important for us. Because this container can have any kind of data. I can keep the structured data. So what is the structured data? I'll show you. And I can keep a semi-structured data, and I can keep a unstructured data also. All the varieties of the data I can keep in the storage account. If my business requirement demands to keep only structured data bound, the structured data should be bounded, then I can go for database, not a storage account. This is a file storage. This is going to store in the form of file. So file storage system it is. If you need a database kind of RDBMS, then you need to go for Azure SQL Server. And tomorrow I'm going to take you through what kind of data we are going to store in the storages. Like I'm going to touch the types of the storages. This is also is important for data engineers. You got my point, right? So after today's session, we just go through this documentation. I mean this DP 900. So how we can have a storages. I just talked about the subscription here. We can have a subscription to control. Why we are having this subscription is the reason why I'm not spending the time more with this particular is because I don't need to spend much more time because we are not going to control anything from our side. So this will be taken care by administrators. Okay, so if I wanted to give a access, if I wanted to give a access to a specific persons, then I can control it from subscription level, or I can give a access at the resource group level. So for better governance, administrators are required this hierarchy. So that is what we are having a hierarchy here for giving access, like central government and state government. So you may have a policy at here. That policy is for all the states. Then that policy is going to be there at the central level. And state also is going to have its own policies. It's like Telangana or AP or Karnataka, something like that. So they may have their own policies also. So for that particular purpose only, we are having this hierarchy. But of course, we are not going to be part of this. So we don't need to know about all the policies. Just to try to understand. So by reading this, what we are going to do, just have a look on it, and subscription will decide your billing also. So billing cost is going to be decided by the subscription. Any question, guys, before stopping today?
Container support blob as well as ADLS Gen2 both now.
Of course.
Sir, when we release means course will start means when batch will create.
Not getting. Can you repeat again?
Hello, sir, am I audible?
Yeah, I'm able to.
So my asking means, sir, all this content will revise again when the batch is created.
No, this is batch only. This is a regular sessions only.
Okay, okay.
Okay, we are not going to repeat again. So when I go for data factory, I require to create a storage account. So one time I'm going to create, I'm not going to create multiple times. Okay, so this is from today's session is very important for everyone. So yesterday I just gave the overview of it, and I don't want to go through this documentation because you may feel it is completely theory. So I wanted to make it in a different way, in a practical orientation, so that you don't get a bore. Otherwise, you will get a lot of bore. But creation of the storage account, the way we did today, is forever a same. Okay, so actual sessions are started basically on yesterday itself. Okay, so we are talking about two certifications content we are going to cover, right? One is basics of data processing and data processing. For basics of data processing, we have a DP 900. So that is what it is, DP 900. And DP 700 is for data processing. We are going to see that later. So once this week is completed, then go through this documentation, and then followed by your backups. I mean, what I can say, dumps. DP 900 dumps I have given. Just go through them, and then you can go for certification if you want to write it. From next Monday, we are going to start talking about the data processing. Yeah, please go ahead. Question.
Sir, hierarchical, can you go to that place, Azure portal? Yeah, here hierarchical namespace in this one's Gen1 also we will be having this one, sir.
No, Gen 1 is deprecated. No Gen 1. Ignore Gen 1. No Gen 1 in the market.
But this will be more faster than the earlier one, sir.
Yes. So they don't want to have a separate ADLS Gen 1. So they took out it and they brought into the same one umbrella.
Here,
Okay.
here Copilot icon is there. So, what is the need of Copilot?
I did not come across it, but maybe we can. I didn't use this one to take a help or like, if you want to create any service, we may take this Copilot AI, but I did not come across anything about this.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, then I'm stopping here. We'll see on tomorrow. Tomorrow is very important. What types of data we are going to deal as a data engineer. That will be very important. And what systems are there apart from the storage to store the data for 3 different varieties of the data. What systems are there to store? So theoretically, we require to know about it. So at the time of data processing, we are going to say practically. Okay. Okay, then I'm stopping here. We'll see on tomorrow.